Good afternoon, everybody. I trust that this video finds you well. Um, Thank you so much for watching. And today I want to talk to us a little bit along the lines of coming back to your roots. And I want to share a little bit about my journey that I've been on recently. But before I do, allow me to read a portion of scripture which is found in Jeremiah 1 5 and 6. And I'd like to read it from the Amplified Version. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you and approved of you as my chosen instrument. And before you were born, I consecrated you to myself and my own, as my own. I have appointed you as a prophet to the nations. 2023 Daughters of Destiny Conference the theme was the vision that God has gave me for that particular year was becoming. And we usually, as a team, as we prepare, I normally say to them, as we prepare our hearts and just allow God to do a work in us as we prepare for the women that will be attending conference, we normally go through things, it needs to first be rooted in you. God needs to first minister that to you first before we are able to minister to other people. So we normally go through this journey, and usually after conference, you're just really tired. Everybody's just really so tired, and we just take time out to refresh. But this time, for me, 2023 was a little bit different, as I found myself after conference just being so emotionally, like I was just a mess. I was just going through so many things. I didn't know what was going on. I was trying to figure it out. And I was really saying to the Lord, like, what is going on, And but I surrendered. You will hear in the background the song Total Surrender, I Surrender Again. And I just found myself like, Lord, what is going on? And I'm navigating and I'm chatting to friends and I'm just navigating this space, but I'm also just tuning into the Lord. And I remember I said to someone that I'm going through a process of transitioning. And as I leaned into it and as I surrendered, the Lord began to show me some different things. And I remember this one particular day that was very significant for me. I felt like it was such an encounter that I had with the Lord. I was driving down. I was actually taking the wrong turn in Newton Park. And then I found myself at a four-way. And on the side of me, like on the next corner, there was the NG Church. It was, let's call it the NG Church, Dutch Reformed Church. And I remember as I saw this church in front of me, I just began to weep. I just began to weep, uncontrollable. And it wasn't a crying, it wasn't a sad cry, it was coming from the belly, it was coming from my spirit. And it was like my spirit was crying out, excuse me. And I remember I had to stop. I couldn't drive any further as the tears were just streaming down my face. And I stopped on the side of the road and I just had my God moment, because I didn't know what God was doing, but I was just surrendering. I was just giving in to what God was doing. And I was just trying to figure out, like, Lord, what is going on? Why are you showing me these things? Why am I feeling these things? Why are you showing me these things? And I remember God gave me this vision of this little girl. It was me, and I was 10 years old. And I was sitting in the pew in a church, and I was looking back. I had this huge smile, and I was so happy, and I was so content. And as I just zoomed into this little girl, I just remember I said to the Lord, I want to be her. I want to be her. And I found myself on this journey of where God was just taking some things off of me. We sometimes put things on ourselves. Sometimes other people put things on us as we journey through life, even in our walk with the Lord. And we involved with so many things, and then I found myself at this place where God is saying, I'm calling you back. I'm calling you back to the person I created you to be. I'm calling you back because I set you apart to be my instrument. And as I was going through this, I remembered in a 2019 conference, The Glory Awaits, I remember I shared with the women on that day, I said, guys, you know what, as I was preparing, God kept saying to me that I've called you to my purpose. I've called you for my purpose. And I remember I kept saying to the Lord, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, Lord. What more can I do? You know, I kept on saying that to the Lord. And the Lord kept saying to me, I've called you to my purpose. I've called you to my purpose. And I was just so busy. I was just busy and busy and busy. And I never really got to the point of, you know, I never truly discovered. And perhaps God was taking me on this couple of years journey to really discover and to come back to that place where I can finally hear Him. But I felt like it was a time of stripping, that God was just stripping me of some things. He was just undoing some things. And I remember I got to a place where I just realized, like, guys, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this. God is calling me. He's calling me out. He's calling me out. He's, you know, and I felt this pull. As my husband and I, we attended a conference, a GLS Global Leadership Summit. And I remember they were explaining this pull. They were giving me language for what I was experiencing. And they were saying, like, vision leader, what are you feeling? What are you sensing? What is pulling you at this point in time in your life? And I remember I just knew that God is just pulling me. He's pulling me. And as I went through this journey, I realized what God has been calling me. He's been calling me, but I've been so busy with so many things. So busy with so many things. I remember as I just zoomed into this little girl, and I just said, Lord, what do you want to do? When we actually went to Potch, I said to my husband, I want to go to Potch. I want to touch base with Potch as part of my roots. You know, and we went, and it was good for me. It was good. And as we came back, and many of you know that we've stepped out of the church where we were, and God has called us into ministry. As I was busy just leaning into God and really saying, Lord, what do you want us to do? And I realized this is what God has been saying all along, that I've called you to plant. And that's the last thing that we wanted to do. We never wanted to plant a church, guys. It was never our hearts. Our hearts is always just to be in the will of God and to do what God has called us to do, and just to do whatever is there for us to do. You know, we always just wanted, and we were in a good community as well. So it wasn't really our choice. It wasn't really our desire to step out and to plant, but we needed to obey the call of God upon our lives. And so we stepped out. And as we stepped out, I remember we started the ministry in our home. In September of 2024, and we got to a place where we knew that we've always known that we needed to get a place, you know, and but as we were looking for the suitable venue, and we're trusting the Lord, where do you want us to be? But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that we got to a place where on some Sundays we were just too many in our home. We were just too many, and we needed to move out. And I remember God showing me in a dream where He was showing me the building that we needed to go to, that we needed to move into. And it was really not what I had desired. It was really not what I thought. And I remember when I woke up, I told my husband about it, and we leaned into it, and we did our research. We went, and it was a building at, maybe some of you know where our church is located, at the Rollins building in Caledon Street. And I remember me driving around that area, and I remember I actually said to them, I said, guys, you know what? This is where I grew up. And some of you know our journey. Perhaps some of you don't know my story, so I'll give you just a little bit in that. My parents got divorced when I was 11 years old. And so we've lived around, we've moved around so many places that it was really just so difficult to really say, this is where I grew up, you know, because we'd stayed in so many places, so many areas. At some point I said, I think we lived in the whole of Uitenhage, you know. And so it was really difficult to really know who do you say, if people ask you where did you grow up? Just Uitenhage, because you lived so many places. But I remember saying, guys, but this is where I grew up, in Taylor Street. So first when we came back from Potch, we lived in Sus Street, and then after Sus we moved to Taylor Street, first on the one side, and after my parents got divorced we moved onto the house opposite the road, and we lived there. From that time we lived in the Ghat. We used to call it the Ghat. I know some people still call it the Ghat, and that's where we lived. And I lived there until I had my son Lee. In 1994, he was born in 1994. So that was a pretty long time. And so I guess this isn't really, as God has now taken me back there. I guess that He's calling me back to Him. So I was like asking, Lord, are you calling me back to my roots? And what was significant for me on this journey is that I started bumping into some school friends. I attended so many schools, so I couldn't even say like which school, where do I tap in. If people talk about an alumni, it's so amazing for me, but I don't even know where must I fit in, because I was a little bit here and I was a little bit there. I was at Gamble City, I was at John Walton, I was here, I was there. I was like all over the place, you know what I'm saying, because of our moving around. So where do you fit in? And so I was like, wow, Lord, but I truly, this is my roots. So I find like, oh, so this is where I grew up. And so I'm telling people about where I grew up, and I meeting people from my school and people that I was at school with at John Walton, and like over 20 years ago, like 30 years ago, or plus 30 plus years that I'm meeting these people. I've never met them again after school. And after I left school, and now I'm bumping into them. So Lord, what are you? So I was just aware of what God was doing in the atmosphere, what God was doing in my life, and on this journey. And as I said, I just leaned into it. It was just wonderful. And I knew, obviously I know everybody still. It was wonderful. We hugged, and wow, so wonderful to see you, Carmen. And then meeting people from Colibri, where I used to work. I left Colibri in about 2004, 2005, and then bumping into people from that time that I haven't seen in a very long time, in 20 years. And it was just like evident to me that God is busy doing something. And that's what that is what really happens, is when we go through things, we also need to lean in and just look into our journey, and just look around us in the natural things. What is God doing, and what is God saying to us in a particular point in time, or a particular season in our lives? And I remember I found myself thinking again about my childhood, and I remember, and I just want to honor my mom, because my mom was a single mother, 4 children, many know her, and mom did the best that she could. And I'm so grateful for the mother that she's been to us, and how she always encouraged us to go to the house of the Lord. Our roots was basically in Dale Street Congregational Church. That's where our roots were. I was in the girls' brigade, and I was also in the junior choir, and so that was our roots. And mom always encouraged us. And when we were a little bit younger, my grandmother had that role as well, that I used to go to Oma Rati, to Laliso, and all these kind of things, and women's gatherings, and women's ministries, and vrouwenvereniging, and things like that. I used to go with the Mama and Klein and Molly. So that's why I grew up with all of those amazing women of God, because really they didn't have much, but they leaned into God, and they made sure that we were all together with them, that that we were doing, that they were taking us and teaching us the ways of the Lord. And my grandmother used to love listening to the Xhosa gospel music, and that also, it's part of my roots. It's part of who I am. I love it. And so as I was going through, I even said to Benjamin, do you know, he was watching the brigade one day, And I said to him, Benjamin, do you know that Mommy was also in the brigade, in the girls' brigade? And I showed him how to attention and stand at ease. And I remember how exciting it was. Jaarfees, onthou julle, Jaarfees is, it's always the main event as the brigades, when all the brigades come from the different areas, PE and different areas in that was connected to our church. And it was so exciting. It was the most exciting thing that was happening. And I remember also sharing with Benny our motto. Like our motto was to seek, serve, and follow Christ, I said to him. But I couldn't remember the aim. I couldn't remember the aim, but that was my roots. And I just like, wow, Lord, you know, you're really taking me back to my roots. And you feel such a sense of freedom. You feel such a sense of freedom and fulfillment, and a place of rest. I'm not less busy now, because obviously you know that what ministry takes. But I am finding myself truly being in the perfect will of God. And there's such rest here. There's such rest. And even as I was talking to so many people, I realized, because oftentimes you think you're the only one that's going through a journey, through a particular journey. And I find so many people saying, look, I've realized, like, look, there's some relationships that I need to cut. There's some people that I need to walk away from. There's some people that I just realize they are not for me. They are not with me. And I realized, oh my goodness, we are all going through the same thing, you know. We are all making some changes. We are all just leaning into God. And what some of us might not realize is that we're really leaning in and surrendering to what God wants to do in our lives, and answer the very call that He has been calling us when we were even, before we were even formed in our mother's womb. Can you believe it? And so now He's calling us back. And what my husband and I are experiencing at the moment, like we said, God is making a demand on what He's placed inside of us. And that is how it is for all of us. There's going to come a point in time where God is making a demand on what He's placed inside of you, because the world needs it. There are a people that is needing what you have inside of you. That, you know, what God has placed inside of you for a particular time. It was locked into the season. And now God is saying, now is the time. Now is the time for you to step out. Now is the time that I want to use you. Now is the time that I'm calling out that which I've placed inside of you. And so as we take that step of obedience, we need to always just remember that He's always with us. He even said to Jeremiah, I am with you, Jeremiah. I am with you. And Jesus promises us that I am always with you until the end of the world. And so as we step out, it is for God's benefit and for God's glory, but it's also for our own benefit. I'm telling you, I'm experiencing such freedom in the place where I find myself, I've never experienced before, and such contentment, such fulfillment like I've never experienced before, being in the perfect will of God. And I even said to our congregation on Sunday, look, I find myself I'm longing to be with Jesus. If He calls me home now, then I can say that I have done what He's called me to do, you know. And obviously, yeah, when the time comes, obviously, but that's kind of how I feel. And so I want to encourage us to lean into God and to surrender to Him again, and to step into the person that God has created you to be. It's a wonderful place to be in. And the journey, as I was coming on the transitioning, wasn't so great. And I had many that came alongside me and that prayed for us, that prayed for us, so many who prayed for us on this journey. And so we're very, very grateful for that. And so I want to encourage you that for those, if you haven't been to any of our Daughters of Destiny conferences, I want to encourage you to be in the room this year. This year on the 16th of August, you want to be in the room. We've got 3 powerful, on fire women of God that will be ministering to us on that day. And it's going to be a day of fire. And we believe, as our theme is joy, and God said that I will turn your mourning into dancing, your sorrow into joy. So you need to be in this space. This is the place that you need to be in, because God wants to cut off some things. He wants to deliver you from some things. He wants to heal you from some things. And He has a word for you. There's a word for you in season. He has a divine appointment with you on the day. So I want to encourage you to, if you don't have my number, you're welcome to just put it into the comment section on Facebook, wherever. And if you want to book a ticket, and I will touch base with you, or send me a message on Messenger, and I will send you my number. And you need to book your ticket. It is only 180 Rand until the end of July. And then from the 1st of August, it will be 220 Rand. This is only 2 weeks before conference. So you want to book your ticket, because your ticket is not just a divine appointment with God, which is what it is primarily about, but we also serve you with refreshments and something light to eat. So you need to be in the room. Let me know, and yes, come and be part of it. You don't want to miss out on that. But God bless you, and I'll chat to you soon on my next video. So thank you so much for watching. God bless. Love you all. See you soon. Bye.